అందరికీ నమస్కారం అండి.
ఐ థింక్
నా పేరు
ఒక్కసారి వెయిట్ చేయండి. ఇంకా జాయిన్ అయినట్లేరు కృష్ణ గారు.
ఓకే.
సో గివ్ హిమ్ 1 minute అండ్ ఇంకా కనెక్ట్ అవ్వలేదట్టుంది.
నా ఫేస్ కనిపిస్తుంది కదా ఇప్పుడు ఇలా పెట్టుకున్నాను ఇవాళ.
వస్తుందండి.
ఓకే
1 minute వెంకట గారు.
షూర్ అండి.
వెంకట గారు గుడ్ అండి.
అందరికీ నమస్కారం అండి. నా పేరు వెంకట్ మంత్రి. నేను సోషల్ మీడియా కోఆర్డినేటర్, నేషనల్ సోషల్ మీడియా కోఆర్డినేటర్. మనము ఈ లైఫ్ స్టైల్ మేనేజ్మెంట్ వర్క్షాప్స్ లో భాగంగా ఈరోజు సెకండ్ వెబినార్ అటెండ్ అవుతున్నాము. మన డాక్టర్ మీనా చింతపల్లి గారు విల్ బి ప్రెజెంటింగ్ ద డీటెయిల్స్ అబౌట్ social emotional learning strategies. Before that, I would like to welcome Bapu garu, President for NATS. Bapu garu, please welcome and say a few words about NATS before starting the session.
అందరికి నమస్కారం అండి. సో ఇది ఈ సిరీస్ లో మనం సెకండ్ సెషన్ స్టార్ట్ చేస్తున్నాము. థ్యాంక్ యూ అండి డాక్టర్ మీనా గారు ఫర్ యువర్ ఎఫర్ట్స్ టు ఎడ్యుకేట్ ద కమ్యూనిటీ. It's very informative and helpful for them at this time, needy time. And I got some feedback after the last session. The participants are very happy the information they get. That would be great help for them. Definitely these sessions going forward helpful for the families. They are struggling with autism, and also our community members, they want to spread out this word for the community. And particularly NATS Sunday, I don't take much time. Last week we spoke about NATS. NATS is well known for the service activities as well as our literature and Lalita Kalalu. Bhasha Ramyam, Seve Gamyam is our slogan to serve. So we do a lot of service activities. Our major helpline 1888 for Telugu. That is our helpline number. 24/7 our volunteers will answer get back to the requests and help them as needed. And also we do the lot of other service activities even in North America as well as in India. So if any one of you want to be contribute, so the high level we see, we have a village development programs, we have women empowerment programs, we have youth empowerment programs, and also we do certain educational services for the in our both Telugu states, and we have a scholarship programs in both Telugu states, and personality development with the Association of Impact we are doing in North America as well as in India. And also we have a monthly immigration seminars, and also we are conducting financial tax seminars for our community to help. We are doing a lot of activities that needed for the community. So, and also we have a chapters are doing a great on the lot of other activities like Balal Sambralu, Mahila Sambralu, cultural events to give opportunity for our kids and women and our community, and sports, lot of sports activities also we are doing, and Ivy League seminars we are conducting for our younger crowd, younger kids to help them to choose the right colleges and all. Like variety of programs we are doing, and also we do the food drives and toy drives, and also the lot of service activities, adopt a highway. More activities are there. If any one of you interested, you can contact us at info@natsol.org. And if you go to our website, you have all the information. And also in specific for autism awareness, we are conducting a lot of these seminars here. And also in India, we are also conducting, helping, providing education kits. And also we are going to come up with a mobile van that can help rural areas in India. And next week I am going to be in India. We are going to launch that mobile van with a medical and education kit to serve rural community in specific tribal areas where they don't have any hospitals and any education facilities in that areas. So that is a goal. We are trying to educate awareness programs and preventive care as possible in the India, our both Telugu states. So that's we are. If any one of you want to be part of it, contact our team. We would be happy to help. And also, one more time, I'd help Dr. Meena Garu on behalf of our NATS leadership and our community members for all her services. She is doing extraordinary. So, past, I think, more than about 40 years, right, Dr. Meena Garu?
Yes.
So, that's it's not that easy to do. So, definitely, your services are helpful for community and thank you for that. And also, Aruna Garu and Venkat Garu, they are extremely working behind, and also Kavita Garu helping them. So thank you, Andy, all our volunteers who are helping behind the scenes to organize these events. Venkat Garu, I'm giving back to you. Please introduce Meena Garu and continue.
Yeah, thank you, Andy Bapu Garu. Thank you very much. Now I would like to welcome Aruna Garu to introduce Dr. Meena Chintapalli Garu. Aruna Garu, please give brief introduction.
Thank you, Venkat Garu. Andarki namaskaram. A very, very good morning to everybody. First off, since today is Mother's Day, I would like to congratulate and wish all the mothers a very, very happy Mother's Day, including Meena Garu. I know she is a pediatrician, so I'm sure she has dealt with a lot of mothers and everybody who is watching. Meena గారి గురించి చెప్పాలంటే she is an ocean of information regarding autism. She is a pediatrician by profession, and autism, I think, is her chosen cause. She has been very passionate about spreading this information. Autism has doubled and tripled and quadrupled in the last decade, Andy. In 2010, if you see, we had 1 in 200 kids diagnosed with autism, but 2020, it was 1 in 50. So you can imagine how autism is spreading. It is spreading like wildfire. So this is a very important time in autism awareness and the spread of information for autism. So Meenakshi Garu, without further ado, she has many accolades to her name. She's the best pediatrician, Woman of the Year, and since 1991, I'm talking about. If I continue to speak about her accolades, I don't think we'll be able to continue this show. So without further ado, she is very deeply connected. She started Sai Baba Spiritual Center in San Antonio. She lives in San Antonio. So please visit her website, Dr. Meenakshi Chintapalli, and she has Educare. And for any further information about her, you can go on natsworld.org/autism. We have all our information that we have had, all the webinars that we have conducted on autism, along with Dr. Chintapalli Garu on that site, natsworld.org/autism. And I'm hoping Bapu Garu will have all our videos uploaded there. So in one place, we have all the information at a click's, with a matter of a click. Meenakshi Garu, thank you so much for coming on and spreading this very important information to all our viewers. And thank you, and happy Mother's Day again. Welcome, and please take it away. Thank you all.
Thank
you,
you.
Anna.
Thank you, the administration and the executive committee at NATS for giving this opportunity. In all humility, all those things don't need to be said. What happens is we are at a mental health crisis, infant mental health crisis. And as I've elaborated last session, whatever happens in the first 3 years, the windows of opportunity to form a holistic personality are lost by the time the child is 3 to 5 years of age. And trying to bring about changes later on are very, very difficult. And it's an extra strain. Autism is one of them. 39 to 45% of children by 6 years are anxious. 20% of the 11 to 15-year-olds have ADHD. 1 in 34 now with autism. That means, you get 3 or 4 kids in 100, and it drains the family, drains the economic situation of the family as well as the emotional strains. But can these be prevented? I also showed last time a video as well as a scan where a beautiful scan was done about the connectivity, and the connectivity is lost from the right side to the left side of the brain. They need to talk to each other. And within the brain connections from the back of the brain to the front of the brain, those connections are lost in autism as well as in ADHD. But the other things that come later on are because of electronics where the brain can be effaced and the brain becomes a prune of a brain with this disengaging computer gaming and everything. So it's a multifactorial situation that we are dealing with, not just one single entity. And it is not mommy's fault. It is not daddy's fault. It is not family's fault. It is nobody's fault. But having an awareness of what to do so that we can support social emotional learning, physical development, language and linguistic abilities, as well as cognitive development with the STEAM skills, is in the hands of the early school systems, early Head Start programs, and the primary caregivers who are the parents. And so why should we know? Because those people are the architects of this brain for the future adult behavior. So a youth didn't become, an aggressive youth or a violent youth taking guns without perceiving that the world is not a good place. Instead, we are responsible for giving those social emotional development which underlies linguistic abilities. So I don't know how many people are there you could put in the chat. Do you feel an infant from birth to 9 months knows a change? Is the ability to acknowledge a change or a strange situation? Are they acknowledging? That's something you need to know, and we'll go through those series because social emotional development is very important for fostering the skills for developmentally appropriate practices. And there is a definition and certain requirement to understand developmentally appropriate practices. It is not based upon the motor development. Every infant is born with very high limbic system. That is, emotions are already mature from within the womb, 28 weeks of pregnancy, through the first 3 years to 5 years. Very sensitive brain. But the executive brain that controls the monkey mind is not well developed unless we create a foundation, a royal path, and we may not know what are all the things that could be going wrong because there is a mentalization that an infant forms from surroundings, from the growing environment. So There are parent and teacher competencies that are important, individual infants' abilities that are important. So talking about the social skills, why do we need social skills? We need social skills because we need to learn to get along with the parents, at workplace, with peer group, with the school teacher, and maintain positive relationship so that a team spirit is built, so that work can be accomplished and in a peaceful way, in a positive way. Why do we need emotional learning? We need to identify how the others are speaking, what is their body language, what is their face indicating to me, what is this emotion, how should I respond or react to this emotion, how can I control my reactive brain to respond to the emotion and effectively communicate. So as you see intricately, the language development and social emotional learning are related together. If you understand, these are the two major things that are missing in autism spectrum disorders. And then there is an interplay between all these domains, whether it is language, cognitive development, social emotional learning. Nothing goes without the other being effective. Okay? So if the self-care of the parent or the caregiver is important, the self-understanding of their own emotions, having an emotional intelligence of others' emotions, and steering through and making a conversation is important. And it starts 0 to 3 because brain is a bunch of cells at the time of birth. So all these developmentally appropriate practices are based upon an individual child, the biological characteristics of an individual child. There are certain genes. And we also talked about epigenetics, nurture, nutrition, and environment, right? So these strengths are there, implicit, that we don't see, but the infant is learning every single second from the events, from the faces, from the objects, from everything that is going on around them. And we were not able to realize that until more psychological studies have come through. And there is a 700 pages book that is available on the internet. So the adult role, caregiver role here is understanding these implicit strengths and weaknesses, interests and nuances, and you don't teach them. You work with them, joint activity, make them accept different situations, and you foster those skills. You work with them in the joint activity to have a self-identity, belongingness, and you set up an example for self-regulation of these emotions. And once you are a part of their development, infants are usually very curious, they're motivated, they cannot stop, without exploring, they get into things, they are curious, and then they have intuition if the adult is really friendly and really willing to teach, or if the adult is not teaching me intentionally. And you have to support them, you have to scaffold them, you have to demonstrate it, you have to help, but give them the autonomy of self-exploration. And through everyday routine, we teach all these things. And that is what the early child development is about. You can prevent a lot of physical, mental, behavioral, learning, emotional disorders if you create a good background to have a permanent wiring of the brain. So just to refresh, there are 100 billion of these units, and you can become hyper vigilant and try to fight, or you can withdraw and you can dissociate yourself and withdraw the senses. If this happens critically before 12 months, from here to here, there is a drop in looking at people, listening to people, being touched by the people, developing resistance for touch, to smooth the social brain development between 6 to 12 months, which started understanding your body is different, my body is different, I'm anxious, are you there for me to support? So anything that disturbs here disturbs this, and that disturbs this, which is executive brain. So this is the monkey brain, this is the executive brain, this is the reptilian brain. And if at all there are any relationships problems, it's anger, misunderstanding, not expressing themselves, or expressing but they are misunderstood because what you're trying to relay as an information is not being relayed to the other person. It could be a spouse, it could be a family member, it could be your own child. So if there is no smooth connectivity through early experiences, other systems like sick heart syndrome, ulcers, diabetes, blood pressure, all those come along besides the scarred brain when the sensory withdrawal happens, when they're not paying attention. And this overlaps everything, ADHD, learning disability, autism spectrum disorder, one relates to the other. It's an interplay. There is not single isolation. Out of the 800 genes that the research has gone on, those people could not isolate a single gene for autism. It is also common in schizophrenia. It is also common in bipolar depression. It is also common in ADHD and everything. So there is microarray disturbances, but can be protected. Now with epigenetics, we know because it is an interplay between the biological characteristics of an individual with the growing environment, nutrition, and safe, secure nurture practices, one can really prevent red flags early on. And if you do your job very well, that's a permanent part of the brain. So again, I put it in a way that you can understand. If this is the epigenetic factor, responsive, loving caregiving. We all love our children, but how intentionally are we connecting with them? Are we queuing into their interests? Are we queuing into their reactions? Are we queuing into their weaknesses? Are we queuing into their strengths and supporting them? If we stand alone as this is my way, that's your way, I'm not going to budge down, and between the spouses or between the children and the parents, then there will be a problem of a behavior disorder or explosive temper or autism or ADHD. Whereas everybody joining hands together and accommodating each other, respecting an individual as an individual, an infant is an individual. They have their own personality, and understanding the personality, developing safe, secure practices is my goal. To come 0 to 3 development is the basis for all holistic development in all domains of health, which is physical, intellectual, psycho, social, emotional, and spiritual. So why do we have to know? We want to maintain good relations within the family, with the peer group, with the workplace, with the community relationships, and language and social emotional learning go together. So there are 5 aspects of this social emotional development. First thing is building warm, positive, and nurturing relationships. Here is an infant who has experienced some world, heard things, and taken into the brain about the mother's situation. It could be positive, it could be iffy, or it could be no problem at all, based upon emotional status, infection, drugs that they had to take, or substance use disorders, or, emotional support the mother is getting, or so many nutrition, and the choices that are made, a lifestyle management, which has to be ideal. And that baby is born, but they connect more so outside the world, outside the womb, through their positive experiences from birth, from the breast call, from the time they're looking into the parents' eyes. Very well cared for pregnant women. Those infants are not like closing their eyes and not looking at people. They look at people. They identify the people, they identify the voices. Research has gone on since 1985. So building warm, positive, nurturing, safe, secure relationships is first factor. Consistent and responsive caregiving, and supporting the emotional development of their own emotions, reacting to others' emotions, and developing emotional intelligence and self-regulation. Pro-social behaviors fall into place when the first 3 factors go together. But then Even in the most loved families, there will be a child who is biting, hitting, kicking, and their behaviors can be challenging. How do you handle them is another section of it. Promoting children's sense of identity and belongingness, that's very, very critical. I belong, so my family belongs. We are all one team. And it takes a village to raise an infant. My village, my community is mine. So we are all going to do good things, not only for me, for the family, but for the community. So I posed a question. Will an infant understand early emotions? How do they develop language? This lady has been producing research papers since mid 80s, 1990s. Just for audience view, I'll just play from...
in their ability to hear foreign language contrasts. We've also learned that during this special period, from this sensitive period between 8 and 10 months, that there is a special quality to their listening. They need to be exposed to a social human being to make that change between 8 and 10 months. We know that from experiments in which we brought babies into the laboratory. We know they're learning statistically by listening to us talk. They're in effect counting the number of sounds that they hear, paying attention to the most frequent ones. What we did was to bring babies into the laboratory at about 9 months during that critical period, expose them to different languages such as Mandarin or Spanish, and see whether or not they can learn from that exposure. And we contrasted learning live from a native speaker of that language playing on the floor for 12 sessions to a television presentation, beautiful DVD in front of the babies for those 12 sessions, showing the exact same material, but no human being to interact with, just a DVD. What we showed is that only babies in the live exposure condition learned. The baby brain needs a social, human, interact, statistical learning. They can learn slowly and clearly. What we're recording against speech, our magnetoencephalography machine, $2.5 million machine that looks like a hairdryer from Mars, but it's totally non-invasive, totally safe. It's like a stethoscope from the brain, for the brain. Nothing goes into the brain from the machine, but what's measured is the magnetic fields that represent the firing of the neural currents, and I'll show you some of them. So any adult or child or baby can be in this machine. We were the first in the world to put little ones in the machine because it is completely silent and safe and non-invasive. So here you see a little one. She's listening through insert earphones to the sounds and words of different languages. She's free to move because we've got magic going on as we track her head. We always know where Broca's area and the other areas of the brain that are important to learning are, and so we can give tasks to these little ones and see the movie that results when we give that brain something to work on. So I'm going to show you one of those movies, and it's impressive because it gives us one piece of information that we expected and one piece of information that was a total surprise. Scientists live for surprises, so this was one of the best prizes of 2014 for me. What we're seeing here is a 12-monther monolingual baby. And this baby's brain is in full view here, 150 color-coded areas. I'm going to show you auditory areas, these two, and two of the Broca's areas that are responsible for learning, social, and interaction and talking. Here's the fiber tract that allows those two areas to talk to each other. The red bubbles represent the firing of the neurons. Look at the firing of the neurons as that stimulus goes by, as that baby hears it. So the non-surprise is that auditory region. If the auditory area hadn't lit up, we would have been very surprised. This baby doesn't hear. Of course, this baby does hear. That red firing, those bubbles, represent the MEG recorded activity in that area of the brain. But look at the other area. Look what's happening in Broca's area. Both in 7-monthers and in 12-monthers, Broca's area fires when the baby hears speech, even though this child can't talk yet.
So, in respect for time.
We've been doing studies in the laboratory at very, very young.
So, in respect for time, I wanted to show you this particular piece, that infants are social beings. They're born to learn, they're born to connect. And why do we get a withdrawal? What is their perception? There's so many nuances in regular daily routine parenting that we do not intentionally pay attention, and we are not even told what to do. How can you do that? And so, why did autism go up, during pandemic from 1 in 54 to 1 in 34? So this makes a sense. If there is no connectivity, if there is a depression in the mother, if there is abuse, more abuse, that was one of the things that came out in the research, that the infants who are exposed to abuse or incest or anything, they're exposed more during the pandemic season because they're incubated. And if they went to a Head Start program or anything, they're not exposed to this kind of negative influence on them. Besides the home, parenting is important. And if the infants are, and I showed a scan last time, that if the speech frequency goes about 24 hertz to 45, there is a shutdown from the brain. So if there is a loud screeching noises, anybody talking loudly, not talking through parentage, which is like, hi, baby, how are you? Your eyes are so beautiful looking at me. I'm so happy. Versus, undara, eppudu edastavu. Those are kind of things that we don't know. It's not that we hate the infant. And these are the things that can withdraw, because she showed a scan where, DTI was done, MET scan was done, where there was a lexicon that is presented to the brain. So the hearing center is hearing not only that, but there is a stimulation in this a few months baby, 4 or 6 months baby, that the expressive brain is firing. I want to talk. I want to connect with you. I want to respond to you. And I also showed a live video of my own granddaughter who was repeating what her mother said. So infants are amazing. We are not even using 1/10 of 1,000th of their brain capacity. So we have to do intentional connectivity while teaching them. So let me give you this one now.
Where we were looking at face-to-face interactions between mothers and infants. To film those, and we would code the baby's facial expressions and the mother's facial expressions. We wanted to understand the relationship between them. After playing a period of playing and engagement with the infant, we then signaled the mother to hold a still face, to not use her hands, to not talk, and just look straight ahead. And the effects on the infant were really quite dramatic. Right away, almost every infant picks up that the mother is no longer responding.
Baby puts through so many ways of it, attracting
Babies
attention.
have all these ways of trying to get the mother's attention. When we saw Analia today, she does a fake cough with her mother. They may start self-comforting by sucking on their hand. They may lose postural control, and they become increasingly withdrawn. If we can see these kinds of effects in 2 minutes, one can begin to think about the child who comes from a neglectful home.
If that experience is not changed, if the child's experience of chronic stress does not improve, then that brain can have long-term behavioral consequences.
Okay, play with her again.
Okay. Hi, Analia. Hi.
Well, the good news here is that the term plasticity draws our attention to the continued malleability of the brain.
So there is an immediate repair done by this mother so that the infant starts laughing. But this is reassuring. So sometimes you may be cooking inside, in the kitchen, and you hear an infant scream, and either hunger, wet diaper, or whatever, and you can make a connectivity with them. Baby, I'm coming, and then go there, hug the baby, comfort the baby, and say, hey, are you wet? Do you need a feed? Mommy has to find out what's wrong with you. This communication in adult speech is very important because that is stimulating the relationship to connect back with you. But if you think, oh boy, I have to do the cooking, and this baby I'm just left alone to do all by myself. So this intentional work or an effort and self-care is so important. The being or the presence is so important. That's why I showed that, nobody has to hit a child. Nobody has to hurt a child, but the children can withdraw for various reasons. What is this? This one is not playing for right now. This is about, a loud noise that suppresses a teenager. I'll show it next time. So what is this trust and bonding and attachment? There is a serve and return response. Baby cries, mommy runs and hugs. So many mothers, get told, don't pick up the baby for crying, you're going to spoil. But it's not immediate after birth. If this is when after the social brain starts connecting, after the 6th month, when crying becomes a negative attention-seeking behavior. This is a basic behavior. So we need to know the developmental stages and why it needs to be done, how we need to care for this baby. So this is serve and return, back and forth, iteratively, given that comfort and security by attending to the basic needs, by cueing into whatever that is there, and understanding the needs of the infant is very, very critical in the first few months of life. And after that, the rest of the pathways gets built. And if this primary pathway causes, I want to thrive, I want to survive. When it goes into a survival mode, they shut down the senses. And immediately there is roots for sensory withdrawal and social emotional withdrawal and linguistic abilities. So our role here, as me particularly, as somebody who has had implemented 0 to 3 foundation research into every newborn who came, including 25 weeks, 1 pound at birth, you can bring about changes. So there are adult competencies and the infant competencies, and it has to be a social connection. We cannot stand alone like this. Here is some support a 4-month-old or a 5-month-old is getting, who is catching up language.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Yeah?
That is clapping.
Yeah. Can you use 2 hands? Good job.
What made this 5-month-old infant who cannot even sit properly is trying to and gets a support, understand both hands? Can you clap both hands? Immediately she responds. When you clap, she responds. That established connectivity, social, linguistic abilities have come through. Just for a few minutes, watch this one, then I'll go to the subcategories. There is something going on. There is communication going on. There is a relationship that is building. Mom is looking at if the child is responding to the sound. And there is an arching back here. All of a sudden, wants an attention. So this is communication exchange. They don't need speech. They have a body language. We need to cue into that one. And he gets reinforced when he's talking about ball. And this is a parallel play, a mobile infant, a sensory play, a non-mobile infant, and through play, with every routine, every bath, every diaper change, we do a lot of things.
What's up there? What is
So mother is following what the child is cueing into. So that is how you establish the relationships. So for infants and toddlers, when the critical windows of opportunity are open, parents become their dance partners. They sink into their emotions. They look at them and, always scanning to see what is interesting my child. If you're showing the moon and the child wants to play down on the grass, it doesn't get to them talking about the moon. Or if they're playing with the grass and they're looking at the moon, you have to talk about the moon. But the infants learn through imitation, through your lip reading, through your gestures, through your object and association and the adult language. They're making a mirror image cells are syncing with your emotions. And that's what we are seeing in all the videos that we have shown. They know the cue, cause, and effect. There is implicit learning capacity about the numbers. A PhD psychologist did an experiment, showed 2 balls, hit them behind the screen, and then they showed another ball and tried to push it behind the screen. But when they lifted the screen, there was only one ball. The 5-month-old looked at the psychologist saying, "What do you mean? There should be more balls." So then they found out by repeated experiments on different children that infants are capable of numeracy. Did we know that before? This is the theory of mind, implicit learning, cue, cause, and effect, numeracy, intentions of the parents, and learning from the world, faces, body gestures, everything is important. And the language comes that way. How does an infant who is gaga goo goo picks up a rattle at 3 months to say, "Can you pick up the rattle?" And they look at the rattle, they want to pick it up, but they're not coordinated. Some kids are coordinated. So the quality time is important during the active alert stage of an infant's mood and behavior. Non-verbal communication, your body, your smiling face, your gestures, your gentle touch is very, very important during sensory play, and your joint attention becomes more important during functional play, symbolic play, collaborative play as the child goes, and that's a separate session we could talk about. What is the impact of the social attachment, positive relationships development in premature infants? If we include a premature infant into a classroom, what care does the educator needs to take? What happens when an infant is exposed to maternal drugs, but then we want to connect the cells that are still not impacted? A caregiver needs to be told what to do during these growth points of development where they have to establish safe, secure attachment and positive relationships. What happens, and you already saw narration of the ACEs, adverse childhood and community experiences where there are inequities, poverty, kids in dangerous areas cannot even go outside and play. Toxic stress, domestic violence, intimate partner violence. And there are so many horrible things I hear, even among the Indian communities in the United States. And trauma, and intentional trauma caused to infants because they did not like their birth if there are 2 girls born, or one of them is darker than the other. Building positive relationships is warmth and affection with a smiling, laughing, and showing empathy. When a child is crying, oh, you give the facial gesture, you sync it with their emotions. Frequently engage in non-verbal positive affirmation. So whenever you can clap, you can smile, you can show your inspiration, that transfers to the child, and their mirror cells start responding to that. Gentle, nurturing touch is very, very important. You can tell the difference when you are tensed up. There's tons of times, loving parents, first-time parenthood really tenses them up. They would come with a colic, crying pain. I talk about all these things, and I take a crying child into my arms in a relaxed way. Immediately, infant cries. That itself was an evidence for them that I shouldn't be tensed up, because babies pick up our tension. And sometimes, parents are giving the infants to the grandparents. You do all that thing. I cannot really handle the situation. But what happens then? The infant knows mother's voice, father's voice, knows the scent of the mother, knows the breast scent also. And these infants feel alienated if that gentle touch. So if a grandmother comes with a newborn infant to my clinic, I always used to tell them, mother is the mother. She needs to handle the infant. You please help her handle all the surrounding things around so she can get a help from you. Or if there is a toddler or even 6-month-old, they have done something new, they always look around. Did you see I did something new? Give a nice clap and an affirmation that you have done the right thing. We always call them as Kutti, Nana, Bujji, but call them by their name. You gave a name. And in the old days, we used to say Shiva, Narayana, Govinda, because that's how our culture, Indian culture, where we are repeating the name of the God, and that itself becomes a namasmarana. So now we have all the funny names, right? So I don't mean to be mean, it's young parents and computers and so on. We had to sit close to the infant. You can think an infant can see you from 10 feet. No, their vision is 20 by 400. You have to bend down to 25 centimeters, show your smiling face, make an eye contact. And that's when you give an attachment. I belong to you, you belong to me. And so this is important. And even if you're playing in music, it has to be at 25 centimeters distance. If you turn on the video on a TV screen and you say, I'm playing classical music, it doesn't get there. And the way you have to talk has to be low voice, parentage, musical, rhyming, rhythmicity. And what happens to a 2-month-old who is taken into the big bash of these drums and playing and hip-hop music, rap music that is playing on? Will the child withdraw the senses? It doesn't take long. Happens, very commonly. Every month, there is something people go on. You have to show some interest when toddler is playing with the blocks. Instead, you go sit with them and say, oh, you learn to play with the blocks. Do you want to clap them at 6 months? Do you want to stack them between 9 to 12 months? You want to say a big tower by 18 months? So we need to know the developmental milestones, red flags. They are available on CDC, but they are also available in my books. So the facial gestures, self-initiated exploration, majority of the times we decide what the child should play with, right? But we need to give the child opportunity to go to a toy and play with whatever they want to play. And you build their strength, but you integrate numeracy, colors, shapes, labeling. Linguistic abilities is coming along with your positive social emotion. So providing competencies for responsive caregiving. Responsive caregiving, again, is an interaction, cueing into the infant's behavior, being there. And you take a infant to change the diaper, you sit the baby on the diaper table, diaper change table, and say, oh, you need a change. I am going to get the diaper. This is the diaper. And while I change the diaper, you want to play with this rattle. It makes sound. Or you can give a squeaky Sophie. You have to put it in the hand because they can't reach it 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. But by 4 months, they reach. And, then they start moving. But when you do that, you see the infant's response. You study the infant's response. Are they responding with a smile? Are they giving you back what your lips are saying? So this spacing is important, even among the toddler stage, even when they're 3 or 4, when you're reading a story, when you're asking a question, don't expect a prompt answer like a rapid fire. The child needs a space. He needs 2 or 3 minutes. And when you tell them, this is not an expected behavior, then I want you to finish your lunch without making a mess. And here is the bolus of food. You can let them eat with their hands. It's okay. Because then the food sensitivities will go away. And you wait, and you wait, and you tell them you're giving 5 minutes time, or 20 minutes time, and put a timer. So all these things are very small nuances. Instead, we become very impatient when the 12-month-old to 24-month-old has a poor appetite, they're growing 2 inches per year, gaining 4 pounds per year, you give an iPad. You saw what Dr. Patricia Kuhl has shown through scans. The babies don't learn. Instead, those wires will be hanging loose, not connecting to the primary target area. So that is what is important, you know. And then if they don't want to learn anything, you cannot say, learn, and you cannot take a book and say, I'm reading 4 books to you, you better learn. It doesn't happen. You have to give them a break if they are tired. You need to catch or cue into their disengagement and let them rest, come back and start their effort again when they have taken their nap. So infants have unique needs, but they're very alert. They're curious, they're learning, they're interested in learning. So I think I covered these things. Okay. Now, the third is responsive caregiving is iterative every time without being short. We have to go back to the infant and let the infant be molded into your arms, look into the eyes, and attend to the need. And if 2 toddlers are fighting, you sit there at their eye level and look at them and say, you know what, this is not a good behavior. You are not right hitting her. You're not right taking the toy away from them. Can you say sorry to each other? Or I don't want, okay, go to your corners, but this is not expected again. So they know, they get the negative emotions also learned, okay? So that comes to supporting emotional expression, regulation. You know, do you know you can regulate the emotions of a 9-month-old? Do you know you can regulate the emotions of a 6-month-old? They don't have their own intricate limbic system to frontal lobe connectivity. That radiant fibers are not working yet. So the parent becomes the buffer, or the caregiver or the teacher becomes the buffer by redirecting their distressed emotions, or giving a cuddly arm or a touch, or lovingly talking to them, or playing a music, or giving a toy that interests them. Immediately they reset to the new thing that is happening to them because novelty catches their attention. So we need to cue into their emotions, and we need to prevent the trigger. And every individual is an individual. No single rule works with them, because we need to pay attention to their strengths, weaknesses, and inherent capabilities and the interests that they're showing. And whereas an 18-month-old, is stomping and crying, you prepare them for the transition, and say, you know what, we're going to the store. I don't want you to ask for everything, because you don't get everything you ask for. You don't bargain with them because they don't know the processing. But the moment you cry because I'm not going to buy that toy, we are going to come out. We are not going to shop together. So this transition, or if you are playing outside, majority of the times kids don't like to come back inside. They want to stay there. Their peer group is there. But then you have to prepare them 5 minutes early. Okay, this is hand cleaning time. In the next 5 minutes, we are going to change. So that preparing the transition is important. We have to label good emotions and bad emotions. We have to acknowledge that they've done good and that they have hurt the peer or they have helped the peer. Positive and negative needs to be supported. So routines are very important for the child. Routines give security, safety, and expectation. If we move from that, they kind of are lost. They're shattered. And so we prepare them. And one of the ways I've always taught a 12-month-old or a 15-month-old or 18-month-old to control their emotions is blow bubbles. They can blow bubbles. They can blow pinwheels. They can do belly breathing, with a toy on the abdomen. But blowing bubbles is very, very important. So we are teaching them self-regulation. Understanding all these pathways are a permanent part of the brain structure. And these will not go away anywhere. And this primary wiring done properly is important. Okay. And they get a sense of belonging if you label their articles. If you buy a towel, some of you can say, the birthday is coming, this is my daughter's name, can you make a towel for like that? So having said that, I made it very clear, endpoints, infants connect with the world from before birth through the first 3 years, 90% of connections. Everything that becomes a behavior is a permanent behavior of the infant. The food choices they take, the communication they give. They cannot do it alone. They need the primary caregiver, whether nanny, grandparents, or parents, consciously, intentionally support, help, demonstrate, do a free play with them, joint activity. That's where I would stop at this point of time. And I know this is a vast subject. I cannot do it within a few minutes. Thank you. We dealt only 3 aspects of social emotional learning. Other aspects are there for the next session.
Thank you, Andy. Dr. Meena garu, thank you very much. Questions ఏమన్నా ఉంటే please ask Dr. Meena garu.
So this is overwhelming, right? I want to stop sharing the screen. So I would appreciate any feedback, because I can go on and on and on, with each slide so much. And usually I review everything that I talk for the next session. And there are 3 more aspects of the session that needs to be completed for social emotional learning. We can do that on 19th if possible, or we will do it later on.
Okay, sure, Andy. Thank you very much. Game questions. One quick question: how to reach out on one-on-one for suggestions?
So you have to get my number, or you can introduce yourself, MK Chintapalli at yahoo.com. You have my name, spelling of my name, MK, M for Meena, K for Kedar, my husband, Chintapalli at yahoo.com. And send a message. Don't feel offended if I don't get back to you right away, because I run around between temple, my home, and my other things that I do. Anybody else? You're welcome to have open discussion. Now I posed one thing. Do you think infants are aware about changes happening around them? And what is the answer? You could put it in the chat box. Or you can unmute yourself and tell me. Are they capable at 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, any changes happening around them?
Jasbir Ma, anybody who has more experience?
That's okay.
Yeah, okay.
So
yeah.
I documented to you that infants can understand emotional changes and are very sensitive from birth. With a still experiment on a 4-month-old or a 5-month-old, but that is also seen. Last time I showed one slide where mother is not looking at the infant cries and cries and cries and will withdraw the senses, at which time the child will not cry, and I would worry about an infant who is not crying for meals. Okay, so these little intricacies need to be discussed by the healthcare providers every time you take a child for a 2-week checkup, 2-month checkup, 4-month changes. It's a dynamic process for the infants to, grow every day. And all these things, the social emotional learning, language literacy, cognitive development is a dynamic process. It's not a thing that you can learn. It is a process that built into the care.
I'm sorry I joined your session late because I was getting Mother's Day phone calls. So you are addressing, this is wonderful. The topic is great. Anything with vocational, the person that I know is now, I believe, in his 20s. So are you addressing anything about later on in their life, doctor, or are you mainly addressing infants and young children?
We want to prevent getting there, but just there are so many vocational rehab guys, high functioning autistic can work in carpentry, in farming, organic farming, so many things that they can do. And, and they do respond, even if they are non-verbal. There are certain sites, I think, you can visit for those. I'm focusing on 0 to 5-year child development, where these nuances of individual sensitivity, remember you said it's a loving family. In that loving family, what was the infant's interest? How did we address that? Was there any overuse of digital media to teach a child? When is it reasonable to use the assisted? Right now, your 20-year-old needs this augmented assisted technology. It is very, very useful for communication skills. Vocational, anything, whatever is their interest. Photography. I have known autistic children who are excellent artists, excellent painters, excellent
You are absolutely right on that. He drew Radha Krishna, the president's portrait. He's very, very talented in that regard. And as far as your question about when he was younger, there was no digital, nothing available. But the children, parents, grandparents, very educated, very on top of the subject. But he's older now. So I appreciate everything that you're doing for the younger children at an age that you can make a difference for them.
I have reversed just with G. So many people who came to me because I worked on networks. And I'll tell you, this was not accepted even in 2010. No pediatricians were talking about it. Very few people, most of the things were talked about by the PhD psychologists. I got into that when I saw a 3-year-old who came with the height of an 18-month-old in 1979 when I was in training at University of Michigan. And he was almost like, he didn't know where he was. He wasn't making eye contact. He was hoarding food, and then were cockroaches coming. That was the thing. But then I went and read many, many articles. And I think it was prophecy, God's creation, where I ran. And in those days, there were no computers. So I sat down for 3 hours looking at psychology. There was emotional deprivation dwarfism. I read the full article and I brought it to the director's attention. We gave a CPS thing, and then the mom would put him in the closet to threaten him. And he was ever since he was little. She would kind of pop on his bottom, but there won't be any, and she would shout at the top of her voice. He froze. He withdrew his senses. So he was given to a Christian family as a foster parent, very nurturing. Within 6 months, the child started making eye contact. Hello, good morning. All this started. His eyes, you can see the soul of an infant or a child through the eyes. Even the animals, you do see the soul through the eyes. And he had energy, he grew 4 inches more because, the emotional deprivation suppresses the growth also. So having seen a wide variety, where both parents were working, grandma had no energy and she was stuck in front of TV to watch, Barney and Ernie and Bert. That kid became autistic total. I wrote about these in my books. And, I challenge the parents that they have to get involved and remove TV connections everywhere. He's at A&M college today, and he started talking within 6 months after I did that. And then I said, you got to read 4 books a day, but you have to label everything. You got to talk to him what you're teaching him. and let him touch the books. And so it was beautiful. You know, once they've implemented, it was all going into the brain, it started spitting out. Electronics have done a lot of damage. You know, there is an article, January 31st, 2022. Read that from JAMA, you know, affiliation of electronics under 12 months of age and autism spectrum disorder. We have thrown away the Lancet study. What is Whitfield or, you know, Taylor has disproved, you know, that study came from Pittsburgh a long time ago. And I also brought the attention, you know, yes, lead, mercury, and all these arsenic are a problem, but how much of that is in animal meat? You know, there is no organic meats in those days. And we eat the chicken, you know, we eat the fish, you know, freshwater fish or salt. You know, if, for all the people, I would say, please buy the organic farm freshwater fish, you know, if your child likes fish. So, so much that we know about these epigenetics. It is definite that it is the growing environment, safe practice, nurture practices. And it is not like you sit down at one time and do that. It is with every routine, bedtime, bath time, dressing time, walking time, green spaces time, you know, pivotal learning, you know, child falls, you know, how are you syncing with their emotions? Are you going to say, oh, you're hurt? That scares the child, become anxious. Oh, you got hurt? Oh, baby, you know, it's going to be okay. That's a different tone. You know, what really a child perceives, we don't know. We need to get the cue, cause, and effect by cueing into their responses. That's why I said pace for their responses. So this is all proved through research. There is a Lou Allen, you know, book that brings all these theories together. We haven't unified the working force. Like everybody is working in silos. I worked in my own silo. I was very successful. If you go to my website, mychild-educare.com, I put in there 1-pounders who were told when they were sent to me that this child will be a vegetable, but we know a doctor who is working on, you know, networks 1995 and 1997. And I took it up as a challenge and I trained, I sat with the families. None of those kids took antibiotics. They were protected with immune boosters and brain boosters. And they talked normally by 18 months of age. They built their vocabulary to an extent. You know, one of them had a huge right leptomeningeal cyst and she was having migraine headaches, but I took a surgical consult. Neurosurgeon said, we are not going to remove that cyst. You know, maybe just work on her migraine. Dr. Shintapalli, she's doing so amazing. She's today a nurse or a nurse practitioner. And she was 1 pound at birth. And she stayed in the NICU for 4 months with the brain hemorrhages on both sides and 3 types of meningitis. You know, what do you say whenever there is meningitis, you're going to be deaf? So I played music the way it should be. You know, she came out of oxygen in my hands. You know, amazing things happen. You know, it's a prophecy became a practical implementation. Unfortunately, I was not in an academic faculty, the Harvard or Princeton, to publish the papers because you get here Health and Human Services, you have to get a permission from them. You have to do that research and so on. But anyway, all of you who are still here, happy Mother's Day. You know, mother makes the society or breaks the society. And I reach out to all mothers, young mothers, please listen carefully. This is the reality. We need to stop taking any blame or shame. Instead of what can I do to prevent this from happening? What can I do to help my other members in the community? That's what is important. I will show this video.
Congratulations, doctor. You're doing good work. Please keep it up, and all the best to you.
Yeah, get more people participate, and you know, it cascades. 1 person can change 10 persons is my dream. So guys, thank you for this opportunity. Nats, you're doing amazing job. I need to join the wheels, you know, of medical care, and we will do that as a part of the medical care there online.
Yeah, definitely, ma'am.
Yes.
Sure, we will give
Sure.
more details. Yeah, Bapu garu, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Dr. Minagaru. I think, since we are already over 15 minutes for Happy Mother's Day for everyone and for you and Nagaru and everyone, Andy. Thank you, Andy. Namaste.
Thank you. So next time, if I get an opportunity, SEL for self-identity, pro-social behaviors, and challenging behaviors. How to
Yeah.
create behavior management. Okay?
ఓకే షూర్ మ్యామ్ నేను మీకు కాంటాక్ట్ అవుతాను నెక్స్ట్ అప్డేట్ చేద్దాము ఆ ఫ్లయర్ కూడా నెక్స్ట్ వీక్ కాకుండా బట్ ఆఫ్టర్ వర్డ్స్ లైక్ జూన్ 2nd కి పెట్టుకుందాం మనము ఎందుకంటే మీరు మెమోరియల్ డే వీకెండ్ కూడా వస్తుంది అన్నారు కాబట్టి
Yeah.
దెన్ విల్
Memorial
ప్లాన్
Day
అకార్డింగ్లీ
weekend, I'm not available 27th.
Yeah,
So
that's why.
19th I'm available.